So there's a lot of passion that I hear in your voice. And so for people who are thinking about what they will do next or how they might want to contribute, what tips or suggestions do you have for success, for negotiating, say, if you're in the law field, you know that best, but in another field, what tips or suggestions? I know from when you were little, fight it, because you fought the kid on the playground. So I know that you have to fight. What are some of the other things you would say?
I would say two things. Be careful about your definition of success and your definition of your dream. I think many of us begin by thinking that I must be the richest person, I must have all the markers of material success. But I think the greater thing comes from doing what you do well, doing it professionally, doing it with integrity. Let me take the example of lawyers. As a lawyer, you want to go in and do a good job, do the proper thing for your client, be an honest and diligent advocate. And I think other things flow from there, because it is not the show of things that defines how successful we are or how fast we will rise. It is how people come to trust you, to know that you can be trusted to deliver, that you can be professional, that you can be honest. In terms of your dream, sometimes when we are young, we think that we'll be the greatest this or the greatest that or the other. Sometimes life doesn't always turn out that way. If I were to talk about my dream when I was a young person, I knew I was going to be a medical doctor. I started off thinking, first of all, I wanted to understand albinism, and I knew that I would understand it by going to medical school and understanding this thing. But sometimes you get to a point where you realize that maybe this is my dream, but there are limitations to my achieving it. So don't be disheartened by the fact that you cannot follow a certain path. Because I think life opens different paths for you. So when I thought about it, I thought, I'd like to be a medical doctor, but I don't see very well. So even if I had been put in a science class in my high school, I couldn't go into that science class because I was having difficulties. We used to dissect. Dissect is the word.
The frog?
Yes, used to dissect tadpoles. But I can't see them properly. So if I can't see well enough to dissect a tadpole, what am I doing trying to go to dissect, to operate on a human being? So I took my books and I went to an art class. And for me, that was the first step in my taking a different path from the dream that I initially thought for myself. And sometimes I see young people getting very discouraged because you think you're going to pass and you think you're going to do medicine and you think you're going to be an engineer. And because you don't get there, you get discouraged and you don't take what you do seriously. I think that for me, what I would say to anybody is you may not get what you always dreamed of. Make a dream out of what you get. Do the best you can with what you get. Because that's what you get. It's like a question of self-acceptance. People say, you have this, you have albinism. But that's who I am. I'm not going to change this. So what do I do with what I am? If I get a B or a C at the university, it will not take me to do medicine. But this is what I have got. What am I going to do with this B that I have? So make the best of what you get. Be the professional, the best teacher, if you're going to be a teacher. Be the best lawyer that you can be. Be the best, whatever it is that you find yourself in. Because I think we spend a lot of time, looking back, I wanted this, I wanted that, I wanted the other. It didn't happen. So take this path, do the best that you can with that path. And I think that's what I would say to any young person today. When I finished my university from the London School of Economics, I thought, I've got this brilliant master's degree in law, commercial and corporate law. I'm going to work in government, and I will be working in the international trade department. But I didn't get that. I got something that I thought was not too exciting. So I could have stayed there and been bitter. I took a different path. I went into insurance. I got myself interested in human rights. And I did a lot of that. And it opened my mind to a lot of other things. It showed me a way of interacting with communities, getting into the informal settlements in Nairobi, something I would never have thought about doing if I'd probably stayed at the AG's office, because then you don't get to go into the Mathares and the Korogoshos and Dandoras and meeting the women and learning their challenges and beginning to understand about human rights. So you may want to take a different path. You may find that road is blocked for you. Don't despair. Do the best you can with what you find in the situation.
So it's like one door closes, but another opens.
Yeah.
And then you have given back your entire life. Why is that that is part of your core and part of your being? Because, you could have, you have riches in a different way. I mean, you could have been a huge, successful lawyer, and you are absolutely a huge, like you said at the beginning, is success measured by how much money you make. You could have chosen that route. You didn't. You wanted to have your riches in giving back to others. Why is that so important to you?
I think I'd probably blame it, quote unquote, on my education in a school where I think the questions of social justice were instilled in you at a very early age. I think when we were young and as girl guides, we would be taken to visit, like every weekend, we would visit a school for the deaf that was in the neighborhood. And you begin to see that life is not always easy for everyone. And there are always people who will need a helping hand. And even as you go on with your education, you have a duty to give a helping hand to others. And I think for me, that's where the journey started. So that even as we finished high school, first of all, as girl guides, then also as in the religious education that was inculcated in us, you begin to see your life not just as yours to do with, to satisfy just yourself, but to make a difference to the others around you. At the university, we began to do things to do with legal aid. And we have mentors like Justice Mumbi Ngugi, who has started the legal aid at the Kituo cha Sheria. We had organizations like FIDA, where you begin early to start seeing that you can have a reasonable life, but until other people around you also have some form of opportunity, that you can make a difference to the way their lives are, that you can make a difference to the lives of children, then it's a very circumscribed life where the only person you think about is yourself. So I don't know whether I could have helped trying to give back, because even today you still find that you go to schools to mentor, you help where you can with children who don't afford school fees, that sort of thing. It's now inbuilt. It's hard to change. I don't know whether if I'd gone to a different kind of school, whether I'd chosen a different kind of a profession, whether I would be the same kind of person. But the paths, the institutions, the interactions that I've had, I think, helped a great deal to shape who I am. And I think also even in school, I would notice that there were teachers who would go out of their way to encourage you. I remember in primary school, there were teachers who were not very kind also, but there were others who made a point of noting where your strengths lay and helping you with that. And I guess they all had an impact in making me feel that it's not just about me. It's not just about my ability and my success. It's about reaching out a hand to other people. So I guess I would say a long line of people in my life helped to influence that.
Well, and there were a long line of people that helped you.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and you couldn't have done it alone.
No,
You've said
did.
that before. You
Yes.
needed the help of others. So what would you, in winding up, how do you want to be remembered, Justice? What do you want your legacy to be?
I would look at it from two perspectives. At a personal level, that I have helped to encourage others. I sometimes go places and I meet young people, young women, and they tell me, you inspire us, you have helped me think that things are possible. And I know when I was very young, I would have liked to have known people who are different, who have made it. So when I go somewhere and I talk to young people and they can see themselves in the future as successful professionals because they have seen somebody who, like them, may not have been society's definition of perfection, then I think that I would have made a very big difference by my personal example as a woman with albinism, born in a village in Banana Hill, and as a woman. As a judge, I would like to think that the kind of decisions that I have made in the Constitutional and Human Rights Division, in the High Court in Kericho, in the Anti-Corruption Division, that those decisions have helped to shape the kind of jurisprudence that comes from our courts, that it has helped to shape the way we as courts decide cases. And I get people who tell me, that your decision in these areas has really helped a lot in the way things develop like this. I hope that in the years that I'm going to be in the Court of Appeal, I will have that kind of impact also, so that when maybe I should not say my epitaph is written, but eventually we'll get an epitaph that when it's written, they will say that the kind of difference you made to jurisprudence in Kenya was commendable, coming from a woman judge in a country where women judges were only 3 up to some time in the 90s, where a judge like you had never been seen before.
And one of the things that strikes me, and it strikes me whenever I hear your story or I talk to you, is your empathy and the ability to stand in the shoes of others. Could you discuss that and why that impacts your judging and how you've been as a lawyer, being able to see into the souls or the feelings of the people around you, and why is that so important to judging and as a human being?
You know, sometimes there's something I read a long time ago. I think it was, might have been To Kill a Mockingbird. And one of the lines there, I think, was spoken by the father of Scott and the young boy, I think Jim, Atticus Finch. And I think one of the lessons he taught his daughter was, you cannot judge a person until you wear the shoes and walk about in them. That sometimes it takes trying to see a situation from the perspective of the person before you to fully understand it. Because I can judge things from my perspective as a person who has grown up in a certain environment, who has had, despite the fact that I had albinism, who has had certain advantages that many other people in our country do not have. I have not slept in an informal settlement. I have not been abused by my teacher. I have not had to give birth in an environment where the doctors do not care. But you have to try and see their situation from their perspective and the very limited choices that they have had. And I think cultivating the ability to look at things from the perspective of the person before you, understanding the kind of facts that they have brought to you, understanding the context in which they live, in which the facts that they have presented before you arise, and then, of course, which you must do, applying that context, applying the law to that context and to those facts, then you're able to make a decision that accords with the law, accords with the Constitution, but that takes into consideration the facts and circumstances that this person finds themselves in. So I think that ability, the knowledge that, the understanding that you may not, the person before you may be different from you, but they have had certain experiences, and you need to look at their situation, understand their situation as you make your judgment. I think that has helped a great deal in the kind of cases that have come before me and that I've had to determine. I think if you don't look at that context, if you don't look at the facts, if you don't look properly at the situation of the person before you, then you can make a decision that doesn't help them and that does not help in advancing the law in the area that you're dealing with.
And in my final question, you have won many, many awards. The latest one was the Global Jurist of the Year Award from the Northwestern Pritzker School of Law. You've accomplished so much but you treat people, judges, justices, others you meet in the profession, you respect and treat them just like the people who are cleaning the bathroom or cooking the food, or people who haven't had the same kind of opportunities. Why is that so important for a judge to never let the robe get in the way of their humanity?
One of the basic things that we learn in the law and as judges, as lawyers, is that everyone is created equal, is endowed with certain gifts. They should be treated the same before the law. But I think, more importantly, I think we are all human. We have the same frailties, the same uncertainties, the same dreams that everybody else has. So sometimes we act very confident, I think, because we wear a robe. But sometimes you have the same uncertainties as the people who assist us, sometimes as the researchers who work with us, sometimes as the people who assist us in court. At the end of the day, we share a common humanity. And I think it's always important to remember that even though we may not reach the same level in terms of academic or material success, certain basic things are common to us. Our need for care, our need for love, our need for friendship, our need to be part of society, to be part of something outside ourselves is really the same. And I think as long as you remember to respect every person first as a human being, and what they are is just a garment that they can take down and put down. If you remember that they're just as human as you are in every way, then you're able to treat every human being, regardless of what they do or what they are, with respect. And I think that's what I try to do. Perhaps it has something to do with the fact that I've grown up with people taking my skin as a representative of what I am, sometimes forgetting my humanity, or taking the person who is walking with the blind stick is only that blind stick, or taking the deaf person. And you begin to realize that if we began to see the human in each of us, as opposed to those external things that make us different, then we would have a much, much better world. I may not change everybody's thinking about that, but for as long as I am able to, I will try to do that. I will try to talk and teach anybody who I interact with to do things that way. It may be ambitious, but that's what I'd like to do.
And that is what you have done throughout your life, and why hearing your honest and direct comments about your life and the lessons that you've learned, sharing them with all of us, it really has been just wonderful to have this dialogue with you, and I'm just thrilled. And I thank you again on behalf of the Legacy Project for participating in this conversation, Justice.
Thank you. It was a pleasure for me to be here and to speak with you.